So as the new Void Champion comes closer and closer to their release date, actually I think she's out on the PvP at the day of this video, but there has been more and more talk about this Void event that is bound to happen. But what is this Void event, and what will it entail? Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't the slightest idea. But I do have my theory that I think could happen and want to talk about, so without dragging this on any longer, let's get into my theory. Do any of you guys remember the Star Grinding event? If you don't, then I don't blame you, because it took place way back in 2017. But the Star Guardian event was a PvE event in which you could pick any of the champions who got the new Star Guardian skin and fight against waves of void monsters, until at the end, you would fight a boss, which was the Rift Herald. Now, my first idea was that it was going to be a reskinned version of this, because I had heard that there were new Star Guardian skins that were leaked. But as it turns out, they were not releasing until later into the year, so that was out of the question. But then I remembered that this wasn't the only time Riot had done something like this. Just 1 year later, in 2018, Riot released the Odyssey event, which is more or less the same thing, but with the new Odyssey skins instead. Now, this event may have looked the same, but there were actually some really important key differences that set them apart. The first one being upgradable moves. Now, I don't really remember too much about how this works or what was upgradable for every champion, but I remember one example was for Yasuo, and that you could upgrade his ultimate to where when it ended, you would shoot out tornadoes all around you in a circle that would return to you over like 3 seconds. Another difference that this event had was that instead of staying in one spot, you would move around to different maps after every wave you cleared, with each map having a different layout and different way you need to approach it. But the main difference, in my opinion, was the Odyssey event's boss was Kayn. Instead of some random void monster, it was an actual champion with empowered moves as his base abilities. This boss had 3 stages, one stage where he was blue Kayn, and one stage where he was red Kayn. Now I guess it's time I tell you what I think the next Void event is going to be. I predict that there will be a PvE event with a new team of champions, as well as upgraded maps and void monsters to fight, as well as new upgradable abilities. But that's not all. I've been noticing that Riot has started promoting the lore in their recent events, such as the Ruination and Spirit Blossom events. So I predict that there will be a story of some kind of like the Ruination, but except hopefully this one makes sense. And I believe that they'll put it in between the different waves of the game mode so that it won't feel as grindy as it did, and it can be completely skippable for those who don't like lore. And now we get on to the coolest part of this theory, which is the boss. Or bosses, I should say. I think there's going to be 3 bosses for this event. The first one being our freshly mind-controlled Kai'Sa. We already knew Kai'Sa was for sure going to be a part of this event because of her recently changed splash art. We also know that she'll be an antagonist because of Bel'Veth's mind control. The second boss will be Malzahar. This one makes sense because in one of the new cinematics, Bel'Veth calls out to him and calls him her prophet, and also makes more sense if you read the Malzahar short story, Feast of the Prophet, where he basically sacrifices Keltis to spawn her in. And the third boss, though I think you get the idea at this point, will be Bel'Veth. I predict this fight will have 2 stages, one in her humanoid form and one in her true form. And that's my theory. The one thing I don't know is what champions will be fighting against the Void. There's some obvious ones that have had recent lore that connects to the Void, such as Talia being in the call animation, and Bard's short story that mentions the Void, but it's impossible to really predict who will be there. If that's something you're interested in, then I suggest taking a look at Necrit's video, where he talks about who he thinks should be in the Void event. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Let me know if you guys think I'm right down in the comments, and if you don't think I'm right, let me know what you think the event will be. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.